Hey everybody, welcome back to Trial by Pilot. This is the show where we judge an entire series of television and the work of hundreds on one episode. I'm Bill Lynch.
I'm Elizabeth Lynch. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I thought 2022, fresh start. Let's really mix things up and watch a foreign language television show.
Yeah. Already he'd had enough. We did the Sex and the City reboot. We did our silly Christmas show.
Yeah.
Christmas movie. He's like, okay, enough.
Just too much in English.
Way too much.
So our next release later this month will also be a foreign language show.
I laughed when we put that on. I was like, oh my God. I was just looking down at my notes and I'm like, oh. The first line says Korean show. The next one's a Swedish show.
Listen, the time of America just dominating content is long behind us.
Yeah, no, I happen to like this. You know, every time I'm like pleasantly surprised every single time. I wouldn't even say pleasantly surprised. You know, like
Yeah.
I just enjoy a foreign language show. I like the subtitles. I love listening to other languages. I just think it's funny because you can definitely tell when you picked the show. Like it's very clear.
But before this, I mean, we like tease ourselves about this, even though we both enjoy watching foreign language shows. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we watched Elves.
Right.
But before that, it was Squid Game, which was somewhat recently. That was October. Mm-hmm. But then we watched a lot of stuff in English. I'm looking down. Katla was in July. Like, so, you know.
Okay.
It's once every few months.
Yeah.
And then, 3 in the span of a month and a half.
I guess if you just compare it to like the last, like, I mean, how many years have we been doing this show now?
Sure. I mean, almost 4.
Right. So it seems to be really concentrated in the last year or two.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Today we're talking about Silent Sea, as we already said, a Korean drama on Netflix. And it kicks off with this space vessel, this ship that has crashed on the moon. There's a small crew of like maybe 10 people inside the craft. Mm-hmm. And like panic is starting to set in as like, they're losing power and like lights are flashing and they can't reestablish communication with anyone back on Earth. Mm-hmm. One of the passengers has a broken rib from the crash.
Yeah. One of them's like hanging upside down, trying to get her seatbelt off.
Yes. That's Dr. Song, I think her name was.
Yes, Dr. Song.
She's like, I mean, it's an ensemble, but she's like the main character we focus on for the most part. So her and the captain look out the window as we pan upwards from the ship and we see it just like hanging on the edge of some lunar cliff with like absolute nothingness to one side.
Yeah. Where it's like, we see a lot of stuff about the moon, I feel like. But like, I don't remember seeing anything where there's like big crevices and cliffs on it,
What kind of stuff do you see about the moon?
I guess like the moon has been in other, it's been a setting in other things.
Sure.
Maybe I'm thinking of kids shows that I watch a lot of.
Yeah.
But that's just like not part of the landscape that I think of. I think of like some craters and you bounce around on it.
Yeah, my only exposure to the moon in media is Futurama, where they turn the moon into like a big pasture for bugalows, which are like beetle-sized cattle.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Oh, and I think there was an amusement park or something. I forgot.
Thank you for sharing that, Bill.
So that was the cold open. Back on Earth. This is sometime in the past. Mm-hmm. I think it said, I forget. There is a global food and water shortage. And there's just scenes of people getting their water allowance from some government facility. Mm-hmm. You swipe your card and whatever level of access you have, you get to like fill up a certain amount of water. And there, of course, there are people protesting this. And
right.
All these ominous news reports and that kind of stuff.
It's like pretty terrible. It's really like the worst thing you can think of.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot given like the global climate at the moment. It's
yeah.
really, really terrible.
So Dr. Song is recruited to go on this mission and she very reluctantly agrees because they don't really give her that many details. And then we see her looking through this box of perhaps her father's stuff.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, we were both a little confused at this part. And then she meets up at this memorial with some of the other members of the crew. It's a memorial for 117 people that died 5 years ago at Balhae Station, which is this research station on the moon. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this whole thing is set in the distant future, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, this is 5 years after this accident happened. There was some kind of radiation leak, and they find out at a briefing that they're going to be going back to try to secure these like very temperamental samples of something. They don't even know what.
Yeah. And they keep saying like, well, we don't really know what it is, but I think that's probably it's just probably super classified. They're not even telling the people on the mission.
Yeah.
And Dr. Song is like, she's just like not okay with it. Like she reluctantly agreed to do the mission in the first place, but she's also just not okay with not knowing. She's like, well, how do I know like what to bring, like what to test? Like,
right. And so she brings all of her equipment.
All of it.
So the shuttle is preparing for launch, and the co-pilot was like a very young woman and is replaced last minute with like some cocky guy.
Yeah. That
another member of the crew is like, I recognize that guy from somewhere, but he couldn't like place him.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that will come back into play at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, he says that to the guy, and the co-pilot's like, no, I just have one of those faces. So,
right.
like,
but you know that he's full of it. Yeah.
Also on board is a Mr. Huang, who was one of the engineers who worked on the station before the incident. Mm-hmm. So he's the only one that's ever been there before.
Right.
Kind of knows the layout and how to get around. So they take off, and, you know, it's not that far of a trip to the moon's orbit. So they're orbiting the moon, and something goes wrong.
Like immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, I forget what, some like linkage somewhere like cracked. I don't remember what it was.
It was part of the landing gear that something was broken in the landing gear, I think, so they weren't going to be able to properly land is what it seemed like, and it was like flying. It was like spinning and then it like flew off.
Yeah. And so they crash onto the surface of the moon, and we like catch up to the cold open. The ship's hanging off a cliff, and like slowly everyone is getting out of the ship. But then it like starts to tip over. This was like very dramatic.
Yeah.
Dr. Song like almost falls out of the ship, like into this, you know, nothingness. And the captain like jumps down to save her, grabs her arm. And like, you know, we get this side view of like the ship hanging off the cliff. Dr. Song is hanging out of the front window of the ship. Like her feet are dangling, and the captain's got her.
And I think I said to you, I was like, at that point I would just be like, just let me fall. Like, I just don't think I could handle it. And like, I also said to you at one point, like, are you getting anxious right now? And you were like, no. But I can't, like, anything with space like this, like when they like just show like the vast, like wide open of space.
Yeah.
My stomach starts to hurt. I was getting really anxious and like.
Yeah, because now they start walking the 7 kilometers to the station because they're that far away.
Yeah.
And everyone's running out of oxygen and like breathing really heavily.
Yep.
And it was a weird setting because the sky is just black.
Yeah.
Like, so like they're getting light from the sun, but the sky is completely black, which is just weird. Because
there's no water on the moon.
That's true.
It's so weird that you don't like to think about that.
Yeah. No water, no atmosphere. Well, very different.
Yeah.
So Mr. Huang with the broken rib, there's another doctor on board, like a medical doctor, and she's like, you know, he's punctured his lung. He's really struggling. And so at some point, like, they're almost there, but he dies, like, just out of breath. Can't.
And it was like such a dire situation that they were like stopping to help them. And they were like, we can't stop. Like, we have to get there because they're all going to run out of oxygen.
Yeah. So at this point, I think they're at like 3% oxygen. And then they finally get to the station, and all of their suits are like just freaking out, like telling them to connect to life support immediately. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're all like just sucking for air.
Yeah.
It goes down to like 1% as the one guy is trying to unlock the station doors, and he like can't do it. Like, he's like trying to breathe. He fails twice. All of their suits are at 0%. And finally, his third try, he activates the doors. They open up, and everyone walks inside, and, you know, seemingly survives at least this.
So I guess there's oxygen inside
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Or that's, maybe the life support systems are like right there.
Right there. Yeah.
So the doors close, and the last scene is the captain looking out the window. Like, we're still outside, the viewer, and we see the captain looking out the window from inside, like just staring out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that was meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, was he looking for something? Is this a monster show? Like,
you always think that. You're like, is there going to be a monster there?
because like
some kind of supernatural element.
Well, I mean, it often turns out that way because, like,
does.
What the hell else is he looking for? You're on the moon. There's no one else there. Yeah.
Yeah. What was he looking for?
No one followed them.
Right. I don't know.
And it wasn't just like a casual glance. Like, he looked like he was looking for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was the pilot to The Silent Sea. What did you think?
I mean, well, I mentioned that I do get really anxious with stuff like this when it's like very intense in space. I can't wrap my head around it, and it really like has like a physical effect on me.
Yeah.
So it was hard to watch once they were there in space on the moon. That's hard for me to watch. Mm-hmm. But like the rest of it, the whole setup of the story, they kind of jumped around in the timeline a little bit, where they started at like basically at the crash and then they jumped back.
Yes.
And then I think they even like jumped further back at one point of like I guess the person who was in charge of the mission is Dr. Song's sister.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. She gave her like an elite access card for water or something.
Yes. Okay.
And she's like, consider this like a gift like from your sister or something.
Oh.
And so like you're getting a little bit of background, and I kind of liked the way they jumped. I liked the way they set up the story.
Yeah.
I thought all of the acting was really good. One of the actors, I don't know his name, but he was in Squid Game.
Yeah. Two of the actors were in Squid Game.
Oh yeah, you said that.
So,
I didn't recognize the other. Oh yes, I did.
Yeah.
The captain.
Yes. So the captain was like the slap guy who was only in like the first and last episode. Maybe,
right.
Who was kind of like setting everybody up.
Yep.
To go to the Squid Game. And then like the gang member with the face tattoo was, in Squid Game, he was one of the organizing people in this show that was like working for the government trying to get people on this mission.
Yeah, I'd seen he was the one that invited her on the mission, and he, I think, worked very closely with Dr. Song's sister. Seemed to be like her assistant or something, like right-hand man.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah. It was cool to see them in both very different roles too. And really different.
Yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, I thought like the acting was good. I thought that the dialogue was really good. I don't know. It didn't seem like, people coming together to go on this mission. That some of them are just meeting for the first time, but they've all done this before or done something like this before.
Yeah.
I liked the way it felt. It wasn't like stupid.
It wasn't like Armageddon.
Chatter. Yeah, exactly. It was
we
like
need a crack team.
Or that other show that we watched where it was so bad, and like the girl had like brought her like, hot rollers and, curling iron to the...
I don't even remember the name of that dumb show.
They didn't have like any uniforms.
Yeah.
They got to wear whatever.
Yeah.
It was with the woman from Battlestar Galactica.
Yes. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember the name of it.
It was
anyway,
ridiculous.
It was so stupid. This felt very natural. And so I really liked the writing, the dialogue, the storytelling. I just don't think I'm going to be able to keep watching it.
I was wondering if you'd be able to.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's like, all of that stuff is good. But I'm just like not interested. There's nothing really pulling me to continue with this story, even though I think that the way they're doing it is done really well.
Yeah. I mean, so I agree with most of what you said. I also think the captain is a very good looking guy.
Yes, he is.
Right?
Yeah. He's really, really handsome.
I like that I'm the one that has to bring that up. I was like thinking it during the show. I was like, Jesus Christ, like this guy.
I know, he's like so handsome. It's like he's too handsome to be a captain going to the moon. It doesn't make any sense.
Don't risk that face.
Shouldn't you be on TV?
But yeah, I kind of had mixed feelings at the end because I was intrigued by just like the general premise and like the knowledge that there must be something else. Like there's clearly like something, either like supernatural monster, whatever, or some like weird government conspiracy thing. There's something else, you know? So I'm intrigued to find out what that other thing is, but they really didn't even introduce an element of it.
No.
They only introduced the fact that like there's probably something else.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
What if like the samples that they need to get like, you know, turn into monsters or something?
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have turned into monsters, or they will turn people into monsters, or
yeah,
whatever. Something along those lines.
Right.
So I'm intrigued by that. I'm really torn. I'm leaning towards I would like to continue watching it.
Yeah.
I will probably just look up and see like if the reviews are good, I'll continue to watch. If not, I won't. Mm-hmm. Because it's only 6 episodes, I think.
Okay.
I've already watched 1.
You're practically halfway there.
Exactly. I think I'm only watching The Witcher right now. I think that's the only show I'm like in the middle of.
Did you finish Wheel of Time?
I did.
What did you think?
Yeah, Wheel of Time ended this past week, and I really enjoyed it. I don't remember what I said on our episode. I'm probably something similar to this. Like I'm leaning towards watching it. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I've wanted like an epic fantasy show for so long. I think I turned down my expectations knob just a tiny bit.
Okay.
Because, you know, I always want like the next Game of Thrones, like everybody does.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
Okay.
It definitely at times had like, both because of the actors they cast and just like the production value, it had like a little bit of like a CW feel sometimes.
Oh, really?
Because like 4 or 5 of the main people are like, you know, beautiful 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Not even like beautiful, like stereotypical, but you know, a bunch
Attractive.
of very, very young actors.
Yeah.
But the world that they are in is so cool. And they start to get into like some of the lore behind the magic of the Aes Sedai, which are like the all-female order.
You love lore.
I do.
That's like your thing.
I mean, I think that's why people get into fantasy, because it's like just such a unique setting. It's not Earth. It's not the same shit that we all deal with and see every day. It's like the histories are different. You know, you could do anything, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it was really good. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was really good. And I will certainly watch the next season. And then I'm watching The Witcher, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Better than season 1.
Really?
Yeah. And like this season feels to me like what I want in like a new fantasy show. Like the production value is fantastic. The acting is fantastic. Plenty of action and everything too. Although there's been less this season than the first season. Mm-hmm. The first season was, you didn't even watch the pilot of the first season, did you? I think I did that with Casey and Mike.
Oh, I don't remember now. Maybe I didn't watch The Witcher at all.
So the pilot was really good.
Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, you know, I enjoyed the full season. It was a little disjointed because they were doing like 3 different timelines that you don't even realize until the end. So it was kind of weird. And it was very much like Monster of the Week for a couple weeks. And they still do that in the second season, but it's so much more focused. Everyone's on the same timeline now. Mm-hmm. And like just some of the interpersonal relationships between some of the main characters are great. Fantastic. And Henry Cavill as Geralt, like the main guy, is so good. Yeah. He's like the perfect casting choice. So I am enjoying that. But that's the only thing I'm watching right now. So
okay,
maybe I'll dig into Silent Sea. Yeah, I heard from somebody else. I've heard from like 3 or 4 people now about Foundation, which was the sci-fi show we watched.
Yeah.
I was in the same position after watching that pilot. Like, man, I really wanted this to be good. It was like good but not great. I don't know if I'm going to continue to watch. I'll wait to see the reviews. And like most of the reviews are like it's good, you know. And like the 3 or 4 people I've talked to, including our brother-in-law Ken this past weekend, was like, it's good, it's not great. Like if I didn't watch it, I wouldn't be heartbroken. So like it's not really convincing me that I need to watch it. So if anyone has binged The Silent Sea, let me know. Should I continue watching? I need like I need a push to commit my time.
Yeah, because we're going to be reading more books this year. That's our resolution.
So Elizabeth says. All right. Anything else about?
It's just funny your attachment to books. Like we're sitting in a room with like so many books that you own that we've moved.
Yeah, they look great, don't they?
They look great, but you're like not interested in reading any of them?
Well, most of them...
you have read a bunch of them, but...
So I've read a bunch of them, and then the vast majority of them are field guides and reference books that I use occasionally when I need to, but they're not like something I would sit down and read as a novel.
It's literally a library in here.
Literally. I mean, I have, there's probably 40 books behind me of different natural history things.
Yeah.
Birds, butterflies, mushrooms. I don't just sit down and read them.
True. We do have this stack right here of Murder, She Wrote novels. Maybe we could each take a stab at one of those and work our way through those.
Well, I will pass on that, but if you want to read them, where did those even come from?
They're your grandmom's.
Oh. They're making my bird book stack not look as cool.
Your mom and sister gave them to me when they were cleaning out the house. Okay.
All right, everybody. If you have suggestions... Oh, wait. Whoa.
Were you going to ask me anything?
Would you recommend Silent Sea?
Sure.
Asked and answered. Do you think it'll get a second season?
Yes.
Yeah, I would recommend it, and I'll say yeah too. I'm sure they're gonna have more to tell.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Now let me wrap this up. If you have suggestions on shows for us to watch, you can email us at trialbypilot@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at trialbypilot. And please go on to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. It's 2022. Make your New Year's resolution to spend 90 seconds leaving us a 5-star review.
I like that resolution. I think everyone can do that. It'll make you feel a little bit better. And I think adding Trial by Pilot into your rotation regularly will also make your New Year better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen to this podcast. And thank you to The Beats for providing our theme music.
Thanks, Beats.
Bye.
Bye.